Okay, so this really wasn't in the playing cards that I had heading into the weekend. Making 2 Islanders videos on back-to-back days. Dude, that's really not what I had in mind. Oh, we're gonna talk about Noah Dobson, and then the next day we're just gonna happen to be talking about a prospect in the Islanders system that the fans absolutely love and are just absolutely hoping the most out of because he absolutely deserves that opportunity. You know what, though? I kind of like it. I like the theme of the Islanders over here on the holiday weekend because they have some stories that I do think are important to talk about. Yesterday, of course, it was Dobson. Today, we're talking about Aatu Raty, Islanders prospect, and a guy that, as we have said, has been absolutely rallied for by all the Islanders fans, and it's pretty unanimous, too. It's tough to find any individual draft pick that everybody in the fan base can pretty much agree was a good one, and one that everybody is cheering for in the same way, especially for guys taken in the second round. But my goodness, Aatu Raty has come out here with an absolute revival of his career, and I absolutely cannot go out there and understate just how much of an improvement this year has been for Aatu Raty. Now, if you want to go over just the new parts of his story, I guess you can skip to the end, but this is one of those stories where it's like, I think you really do need to set it up every time because the context is so important, and just acknowledging what Aatu Raty was supposed to be a few years ago versus what he became versus what he has turned into today, that kind of makes the story a lot more redeeming to listen to. So that's kind of why we're going over everything. It's a Christmas tale, I guess you could say. Or, excuse me, no, it's not Christmas anymore, it's the 26th. So Aatu Raty was one of the prospects that a lot of people were projecting to being the first overall pick in the 2021 NHL Entry Draft. Back in 2018, 2019, it wasn't Owen who had his name at the top of the list. It was, in fact, none of these guys that were in that conversation. Mason McTavish, no. You didn't really have Matty Beniers. Okay, he was kind of in there, but he wasn't really consensus number 1 material. You have yourselves other guys that projected later into the draft, like Luke Hughes, that were big notable names as well. But when it came to the 2021 draft class, for the majority of the late 2010s, everybody thought that Aatu Raty would be that guy to go first overall. Why? Well, because developing as a youngin in the Karpat U20 League, he was a very, very strong player. Very good internationally as well, despite being an underage guy. And even though the 2021 draft was not seen as having an Alexis Lafreniere caliber talent at the top, nobody was supposed to be a Jack Hughes. Nobody was going to go out there be a Matthews or a McDavid. You still had yourselves this profile that built itself up. That Aatu Raty, the projected first overall pick for 2021, was going to be a pretty solid first-line caliber center if he maxes out and hits his peak. And it was really exciting for a lot of Finnish hockey fans because they had been seeing their guys get some pretty good notable draft coverage heading into the past few seasons. You had yourselves, of course, Alex Barkov going in the top 3. You had Jesperi Kotkaniemi going in the top 3. Capo Kakko went in the top 3. Miro Heiskanen went in the top 3. So there were a whole bunch of guys, and center specifically, with two-way responsibility and an overall skill set that projected to top-of-the-line material that were being taken in the previous few years. And Aatu Raty was supposed to be the one that topped them all. None of these guys went first overall, but heading into 2021, a lot of people were thinking, okay, if there's going to be a first overall Finn that we're going to see out of this crop, it's going to be that Aatu Raty. Now, once 2019 kicked around, things really took a little bit of a turn for the worst for Aatu Raty. His play in the Karpat U20 team was not bad, 21 points, 30 games played, but it was a pretty similar rate of production to what he had the year before, where in the same team, in the same league, he had 31 points in 41 games played, and since this is a junior league, the quality of competition is the same, he's playing against 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and he was better in the previous year than he had been in 2019-20. His limited stint in the Liiga saw him put up 4 points in 12 games played as a 17, turning 18-year-old player, or I believe he was 18 because he had a late birthday. Yeah, that's the case there for sure. And it wasn't really to the point where it was breathtaking enough for people to say, okay, look at Aatu Raty going out and doing his thing. That's the first overall pick next year going out there putting on a show. At the World Juniors, he had 3 points in 7 games. Wasn't really the most standout player, but a lot of people were still like, okay, he's got one more year till the draft. Let's give him that other year to develop and show us why he is a projected first overall pick, and then we'll go from there. His draft year wasn't great. He had 7 points in 8 games played for the same U20 league, which is good, but not really the improvement that you would have wanted to see. And in the regular Karpat team in the Liiga, he had 6 points in 35 games. He didn't even crack the World Junior team, despite the fact that he was a projected top guy. In this season in 2021, we started to see a lot more hesitation and a lot more of a stagnant state of development for Aatu Raty and the way he processed and performed out there on the ice. So it wasn't really a good year in the slightest for a guy who had all these expectations placed upon himself by hockey scouting outlets, by fans, and of course, at his own hand too. There were a few interviews that he did talking about the pressure and talking about the draft and all that, and we've covered those in previous videos, so I don't really think there's a need to go out there and do that again. But Aatu Raty really fell hard from his projected first overall pick status. Sure, was he still a skilled hockey player that displayed flashes of brilliance once in a while? Yeah, he has a really good two-way ability, his motor goes when he really wants to, and when he absolutely has his head in the game, he is an effective, dangerous offensive player with really, really good tenacity that bites back at opponents when he needs to. He still has that really potent wrist shot that put him on the map a few years ago. We just wouldn't really see him execute in the way we would have wanted him to, especially as a projected first overall pick. Alas, he dropped all the way down to 52nd overall, where the New York Islanders snagged him up in the second round. They signed him immediately, and you take a look at what he has done now. Hey, guess what? His stint in Karpat, not great. 1.6 games played. The guy went out there not really producing all too well, and then he got loaned over to a different team. He's now on an inferior team. If you go over to the Liiga standings and you take a look at where Karpat is, hey, they're a good team. They've been a good team for a long time, and it's kind of why guys like Aatu Raty, who are younger, who are trying to make a name for themselves, and who are being given middle, bottom six time on these teams, they're not really getting the most development out there. Now you see, right after Karpat, you have the Pelicans as well as the Jokerit in the standings. The Jokerit are the new team that Aatu Raty has been placed on, and guess what? They gave him the keys to the car, and they said, you go out there and you show us why you were so talented back at the U20 level all those years ago, and why everybody thought you would have been a first overall pick. He's gone out there, and in 11 games played, he has done that. 13 points in 11 games. He is over a point per game as an 18, 19-year-old player in the Finnish Liiga now. He's suiting up for Team Finland internationally, and he's got 20 points in 11 games played. He is almost at 2 gosh darn points a game on the international stage after not being included on any Team Finland squads last year because of his poor play. You want to talk about a guy going out there and reviving his career with the fan base of an entire Long Island behind him. You have yourselves Aatu Raty right here, putting himself on the map as one of the most effective and revitalized players from last year's NHL Entry Draft. And it's so great to see because you always want to see guys go out there and do their best and be good, right? You never want to see anybody go out there with the talent and the hype and the expectations that we had of an Aatu Raty and go out there and disappoint, right? Nobody wants to see any more Alexander Daig stories coming out here in the league. We don't want to see any more Patrick Steffens. We want to see guys go out there and prove us wrong. We want to see guys go out there and be better than we thought they would be. And for Aatu Raty, a lot of people just kind of dissipated that hope when they saw him perform in the Liiga level last season. They're like, oh, he's really not doing well with Karpat. He's really not being given any opportunities, and he's not making the most out of the ones that he has. He's a completely different player than he was when he was tearing up the U20 Finnish League all those years ago. That's why he didn't make the World Juniors. Well, guess what? He's going over to the World Juniors this season, and he's going to have himself a ball. Hopefully, at least. Hopefully, he'll go out there and actually make a lasting impact that was probably better than his showcase 2 seasons ago in, what was it, Vancouver? Was that the Vancouver World Junior Tournament? I believe it was. No, actually, it was Ostrava. That was the next year, right. So, either way, Aatu Raty has gone out there and revived his career. This is the best case scenario. There is a reason why, despite the fact that Aatu Raty is just a second-round guy in Finland. He is a guy across the entire Atlantic Ocean. He is a guy that hasn't even been placed onto New York Islanders ice before. You have yourselves an entire Islanders fan base that is rallying behind this guy. They all love this guy, and they all feel like this was an absolute steal of a pick that has such a high ceiling that all that's really left here is to see if the Islanders are going to be able to uncover that. And with the help of the Jokerit in the Liiga, it certainly looks like he's on the right path to doing so. So talk to me in the comments, what do you think about Aatu Raty and the development he has had. If you're an Islanders fan, let me know in the comments, what are your opinions about this player? Where do you see him fitting into your lineup in the long term? Is he a first-line center, a second-line guy? Do you play him above Matty Barzal? There are a whole bunch of options, assuming he does pan out, but of course the development right now is the most important part. Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.